Coming up next is a fireside chat on the topic, the power of machine learning and semantic reasoning combined. Semantic understanding is an artificial intelligence that analyzes natural language text for patterns and meanings using statistical and graph-based algorithms. Artificial intelligence, known as machine learning, enables computers to learn without explicit programming. But there is more to it. I'm looking forward to this conversation between two of the most renowned faces of the technology world. We have Kaniska Mandal, the Chief Product Officer at Sparkflows, and Roberto Baldizon, the founder of the Silibrain LLC. Please welcome them to the stage.
Hello. So, short introductions. My name is Roberto, and I'm the founder of Silibrain, as you heard. So, I'm originally from Guatemala. Then I came to the U.S. for college, and I did a lot of education because I love technology. Actually, my core education was more in real world engineering, you would say. So, more like actual electrical and energy and biomedical. And then I applied it more towards technology because it's something I've been passionate about all my life. What about you, Kishan?
Um, Absolutely. Thank you, Roberto, for the intro. Myself, Kaniska Mandal. I'm the Chief Product and Innovation Officer of Sparkflows. I have around 21 years of industry experience, mostly focusing on developing various types of data products. So my curiosity was like, understanding the journey of the data end to end and actually trying to develop, a product in different phases of the data life cycle. Last 10 years, I was heavily focusing on data science and machine learning problem for, companies in the fields of retail, healthcare, IoT. And at this point of time of career, what I'm mainly focusing on bringing the fruits of innovation, the fruits of technology in the hand of common people. That's our goal. So we are building out everyday AI for everyone. And that's the mission for our company, Sparkflows, that is to democratize data science. So yeah,
Yeah,
talk more about that.
I see that. It's very interesting once we start looking at, well, even the history of the world. Before the Industrial Revolution, the GDP of the world in the times of the Romans, who we will know they conquered pretty much the entire known world, the GDP was close to zero. So it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution where really our global civilization started taking off, and now we enjoy this standard of living that we have today. So on the same topic, the we don't we are about to face we are already facing another industrial revolution, maybe even bigger at this point, which is that of technology and information. And the epitome of it is AI as a tool that can be used for the betterment of humankind. So, how would you say that you have seen the evolution of AI through that?
Great question. So the way I look at it, say 2000 to 2010, that's the time period where we have actually seen a revolution in terms of adoption of early stage AI algorithms, right? So we started developing applications, hardcore applications, right? The concept of AI is actually very old, right? We are always talking about human recognition, like exploring human mind, human brain for centuries, right? Now, formally, we tried to actually create applications during that time frame, 2000, 2010. That is that application-driven AI era. Then 2010 to 2020, what we have experienced explosion of data. Then we started talking about data-centric AI. So the AI actually matured a lot from like, the incubation of the AI labs from certain company or research lab. It now like, started becoming mainstream. Many small, medium companies where like, data became affordable and we started building more and more tools and technology, more data scientists, right? And citizen data scientists. So we experienced the data-centric AI. Now here comes 2020 onwards, right? So fast forward, now we are in the business-driven AI era. So what we are trying to do is trying to create semantically driven, like, augmented analytics driven, actionable analytics driven applications. More sort of like how we can automate the applications of AI and bring those automated insights in the hand of people. So now we are talking about empowerment. We are beyond the phase of research, application development. Now we need to empower people. We need to, uh, very fast bring these fruits of AI to all different sectors. And that's where, like, our company Sparkflows, our goal is to help everyone across the globe, like, feel empowered when they actually bring their own data and they can leverage these pre-packaged solutions which already built using some type of machine learning and AI. And then, like, they can actually learn data science and become citizen data scientists. So, and we have actually seen this adoption of this concept is, is absolutely fantastic. Uh, if you see the Gartner's hype cycle, right, you will observe the self-service analytics that we are talking about, or the self-service AI, was in the hype cycle for, last decade. Now it is in the enlightenment zone. That means the market expectations are matching with the offerings of the self-service AI. That's a great news. A Gartner report says that, 60% of the CFOs are looking forward to adopt, this self-service model. And definitely, like, that brings us, the next question that I would like to ask you, right? That how do you foresee that this type of self-service model, we are talking about semantic reasoning, is going to help mankind, right? That's one of our key goals.
Yeah, thanks, Kishan. Yeah, so as founder of Silibrain LLC, we actually started doing a lot of work with implementing AI for the betterment of mankind during the pandemic, in which we were able to collaborate with researchers and actually England's NHS indirectly, where we were able to increase the accuracy of rapid testing from a baseline of 70% to 86%. Rapid testing is what you'll see with the little swabs that will go through up your nose. If you take a box, you'll be able to see it says 99% specificity, but that's not taking into account human prone error in how you take the test, how you analyze the test, and then how you handle all that sample. So the end up result is more around 70%. We were able to increase it to 86%. Through that, we have been working on doing patient engagement solutions that are friendly for people to understand and are actionable. So it's very important for us to understand that, yes, AI will have and is having already a big impact in our civilization, our societies around the world. For example, now I was actually in RSNA, which is a conference on radiology a few months ago. And AI is already being implemented in a lot of things in the workflow for radiology. So one of the big things that is creating a big impact is that it's making hardware a little bit cheaper. If you imagine, these machines are very expensive, but because it requires a lot of technology, it requires a lot of resources, a lot of material to make it. But at the same time, if you add things like AI, which can enhance the accuracy, you can enhance the properties of the software that uses these machines, then they can actually build a little bit simpler machines that have almost the same capabilities as top-notch solutions. That means that a machine that would cost you around half of what it used to cost 3 years ago produces the same quality of results, and might be even better, since now we can actually take that data, we can make it actionable for physicians, and even for them, for patients, that then I can actually use it to understand what they are going through and take action to get better treatment. By the same token, the same thing can be applied for pretty much any industry. Now, this doesn't mean that AI is going to displace everyone, because the way we see it, it has to be human-centric. There always has to be um, human handheld utilization of AI as what it is, which is it's a tool. It's a very fancy tool. It's a very good tool, but in the end, it's what it is. It's just another tool. It's not an entity that will come and replace us all. On the same token, I know there's started to be hype on semantic reasoning, but I wanted to hear your thoughts about it. How do you think about it? How do you foresee it in the next coming years?
Thank you, Roberto. That was absolutely amazing to hear from you about the usage of AI for the betterment of mankind. Nothing can be more heartening than to hear such great stories. So, yeah, talking about the semantic reasoning, what we foresee, the adoption of actionable analytics and the self-service AI actually taking us to the next, evolution, what we call augmented analytics. And augmented analytics have many different aspects. So one key characteristics is a natural language query, right? Like you mentioned that you have gathered enormous amount of data. The data is already generating insights. So you are like performing prescriptive analytics on top of it, which is great. Now imagine that some business users or physicians or doctors, right? They just have a interface or like a medium where they can interact with this analytics system just by through some kind of voiceover or like natural queries on the fly. And it not only generates those insights on ad hoc manner, but it can also serve those insights which already has been generated by the AI models. So now we are not only talking about serving the packaged applications, but like abstracting out the outcome of the AI applications and serve them in such a manner that all the different people in the industry, whether someone like is a lawmaker, someone is like chief marketeer, uh, they need to actually gain these insights in a much more I would say faster rate. So one of the things that we are focusing on, helping these industries to scale out their business use cases. So they are facing the challenges of business that, there is a tight budget, inflation situations, organizational challenges with involving like interaction with teams, collaboration with teams, tools, technologies, right? Now, what we are saying that how we can transcend all these barriers, then on top of that, we can create a kind of user-driven self-service layer where we focus more and more, like how we can provide these pre-built Lego blocks so that in any industry, people can come and actually design these solutions. And then on top of that, like you mentioned, the semantic reasoning layer would be the next evolution. And it would be very easy to build uh, on top of one layer. We can just add one layer on top of another layer. And it's already happening. I think semantic reasoning is in the hype cycle range. Probably it's the fantastic place for investment, I must say, for investors, if there is any investor out here. And yeah, so I see a great future for semantic reasoning. So with that, like, I would love to ask you a question about um, how do you foresee the future of mankind that now that we covered a lot about the AI evolution, semantic reasoning, how it can actually, unite the society, make it a better place for living as a whole, like, so what's your thought on that?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that question. Well, I think we definitely we live in the best time that we could ever ask for. Technology has never been at this point through human history, but at the same time, yes, we have just come out of a pandemic. It is likely that there could be another one. There's actually a lot of contagious diseases that have been growing in number, as well as antibiotic resistant bacteria out there. On the same scale, we have climate change, which is real and is already happening, and we see the impact of that everywhere. Um, But the good thing, and one of the positive things that I can see out of the pandemic, is that it enabled us to work together as a world for a solution. Yes, there's still things that we can do, but I think there are events that can really change the history of where we're heading, and events that are inspiring. I don't know if you guys like football, soccer, but right now, recently, Argentina won their third World Cup in the time where they had been going through very much economic hardship. So the impact of that for them was crazy. The celebrations in Argentina where they couldn't even move within the streets. There were like 5 million people trying to receive and say hello to Leo Messi. So things like this can really inspire people. I know we work in technology, we work with science, so sometimes there's a common thread of thinking, oh, we're superior to sports and stuff like that. But no, I mean, we're all the same. It's a different type line of work, and things like this can inspire people. I think on the same token, the utilization of AI as a tool to help with the betterment of mankind can really spark change in a time where we need it the most, because we're in the brink of change. Yeah, we could go either the way of autocratic regimes like we have seen in Europe where there's war again, or we could be positive about it and see that, well, the war's still going on and Ukraine's still holding on. So there's still a pushback from people from that, as well as we see in China with the zero COVID policy. It was mind blowing. You wouldn't think a few years ago to see the response from the Chinese people. So the power that technology has already enabled us, for example, with social media enabling the common people of the Middle East to have that medium of communication and easy organization within them, triggered what we call the Arab Spring, which led to greater social good, social equality, and then more importance into human rights, as we'll see with we're already seeing in Iran, which is something crazy. So I think by the same token, the application of AI to the common people will give us on human superpowers, which we needed the most at this time. At this time, though, I would like to ask the audience if there's any questions.
Thank you so much. Yes, hi, I'm Nadine Chino. I'm an impact inventor. And I just wanted to clarify what I heard. I know there's a lot more you're going to discuss. At the same time, I thought I heard you talk about rapid PCR, and with AI having the ability to kind of accelerate that whole process of delivering outcomes. Our company is focused on managing facility wellness, right? How do we create or adapt what's being done for people at a PCR test level for a facility? Because at the end of the day, when we feel like there's enough safety, we all return to facilities and we work under the same air conditioning and so forth. And that's really where the diseases get transmitted in the first place. So I just open up that conversation and challenge. There are sensors that can monitor indoor air quality and surface disinfection, which we have. We've already created that ecosystem. But I'm so curious if there's a way we can use AI to help facilitate identifying dangerous pathogens that don't get picked up by indoor air quality monitors in order to be able to provide real-time data for whatever remedial strategies needed.
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a great question. Well, the first step as we discussed the history of AI, was to enable experts such as yourself and your colleagues to have tools such as the ones that are available out there. At first, it was mostly statistical algorithms, which required another expert, which would mean you would need to go and recruit for a mathematician or statistician to be able to use those tools. Now, with the advent of more technological solutions, such as the sensors that you suggested, as well as a possibility to communicate with other experts, such as epidemiologists, then better solutions could be provided and could be made so that we fit whatever those experts see as their model of reality, and we can provide that comfort and that assurance that people might need to go back to work. Nevertheless, the real big power of AI will come once we start implementing solutions as Kishan's, the ones that he's building, because we'll be able to gather all this information that we are obtaining from endpoints, be it sensors, be it exports, and then with all this data, we would be able to feed it to a certain tool that will be able to even highlight things that we might not have foreseen before. Is that correct?
And absolutely, I would love to add to that. Like you mentioned, we definitely need to build at this stage of the AI maturity that we have reached some type of a common repository of insights across the industries. We cannot keep it siloed. We have to actually democratize data science in the truest sense of the term. That's one of our mission. And the second thing is like sharing this domain expertise in the form of in an asset. I mean, it cannot just remain in some kind of research paper or some fragmented code or applications. So that's why we are trying to promote this idea of you build your workflow or whatever you call it a business automation, but it needs to be shared across the communities. It needs to be preserved so that in future someone can add more customizations, but in a manner that should not require an additional efforts of say building teams or adopting new tools and technology. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that now it's time for actually augmented automations, actionable analytics. It's time to take action. We have done enough research. It's like, as you mentioned, it's time to detect patterns from the insights that we have gathered from the data. So yeah, and thank you for this question. I think this will spark more, further thoughts in the mind of the different industry leads or key decision makers in terms of taking the right strategies, for adoption of AI.
Yeah, I know it can be a daunting task at times because it's still AI, and I know once I have colleagues that struggle even using their email. That they keep telling me, "Oh, I forgot my password. Can you help me reset it?" So I think it takes time, but I think we're heading in the right direction. And as long as you're collaborating with experts and companies like ours, like we can help you go through all those stages, because in the end, and the good thing about all this type of tools is that the ones that get the most benefit is actually the end user, and the people that are doing it. We're just providing a service using the technology that's available, but in the end, the impact that it will have it's really we don't even know, but we hope it's going to be way larger.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other questions from the audience.
Thank you for sharing with us. It's very amazing. What we are getting better day. So my question is that I have thought about it. I want to do the emergency service, emergency room service. So with that in mind, how do you get mind? What technology specifically you see? What's the pain point to improve immediately second stage or in the long run?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. Just let me ask you again to make sure that I got it correctly. You're asking about emergency room services, right?
Yeah.
And then suggestions about how we see that we can implement AI and other technologies to improve it.
So I'm not specifying which technology. I'm asking what's the maintain time to improve and what technology we can use.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. I added AI into that because I guess I'm biased with that. But you're right. There's a lot of technologies that we have that we could implement. I would say the first stage, it really does depend where you want to implement it, and that's where the whole thing of same thing that we were talking about of using. Now we're up to the level of using AI as a business tool. Um, on the same level, for example, I'm from a developing nation. I'm from originally from Guatemala, and if you were to have an emergency room there, one of the things that you would have to look at is first regulation. Then you would need to look at infrastructure, and then it's the same thing in a lot of other developing nations, such as I know in Southeast Asia and Africa. Actually, most of the world is actually in that stage. So, in an emergency room in those places, you would have to see the infrastructure, the local regulation, and then you would, the first thing that you would do is that you would enable for digitalization of whatever is available. If they have medical records, you can help them digitalize them in an easy manner that they can, pretty much everyone has their cell phone. They can communicate quickly with physicians. A lot of the paramedics in these regions are not physicians. So they would be able to also see quick videos if they need to on solutions that they can do for any potential symptom that they see the person going through. And that's where patient engagement solutions, such as the ones we're building with clinical aid diagnosis tools, can come in handy. Once we look at a little bit more developed systems where we already have the actual emergency room service built and with protocols that have already been developed through a lot of research and time, say such as a nation that's developed but still can use more technology, then I would say adding things such as there's simple things that have not been added to the healthcare industry, such as the checklist. There's this physician, I don't know if you guys have read him, but if you haven't, I would recommend his books, Atul Gawande. He has had a tremendous impact in the industry. He wrote this book called The Checklist Manifesto, in which he elaborates about how in healthcare there's been this tradition in which the physician has been thought of as this magician, as this maestro that knows everything, and just because it's a God-given right, he knows what to do. And that has worked in most of the world for most of history. But if we're frank with ourselves and we look at what they're doing, it's really just they're domain experts, yes, but it's just they're just people. So he started looking at other industries, and if he started comparing the amount of potential problems that can go bad in the healthcare industry versus those that could go wrong in the aviation industry or the construction industry. And if we were to have even the closely similar as error percentage when building structures or when flying planes, I don't think any of us would feel comfortable flying airplanes or being inside buildings that have been built by people that just happen to know what they're doing. So he started looking at what they were doing, and what they did was the checklist. It was checklist and protocols. So once we have checklists and protocols, we can start implementing processes that we already know that work and that can be standardized. And then those can be repeated and recreated and reach a scale.
Those technologies you just described, nothing to do with the AI. So how do you see the AI starting to improve it?
That's a great question, and that's exactly where I was going through. The third stage would be in a place like the United States, where we already have the emergency rooms in place, we already have the protocols. Then what we would have would be the utilization of AI and the utilization of that with IoT and endpoint gathering, because then we will be learning a lot about our emergency rooms. We would be understanding what's going through, what the potential issues are. We would be learning a lot of that data that right now it's not being captured. So the first step would be to actually have that captured data in those operating rooms. So we start understanding what's going on whenever any of the situations are happening, and especially when something is going wrong. Because when something is going wrong, we can start learning what went wrong and how we can improve it. So by using AI, we would be able to understand how our processes work and how they impact the end result. And we would be able to find patterns to understand what could be improved and actually start building better solutions. What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to add one real quick thing. That's such a great question. So sometime back, I was actually involved developing something called real-time location tracking solution for hospitals. So where we actually have the sensors within the hospital, and then there are various types of tags that you attach to the devices or patients, right? Then you can track their positions. Now, it could have a very important application in your use case, like you were mentioning. So that's where AI comes into picture. So in two ways. One is like, more and more I see convergence of the data, like we are mentioning application to the data-driven to business-driven era, meaning consolidation and aggregation of data is not a problem these days, right? Now it's time for getting insights. So you can get lots of data from the IoT sensors, and then the data about the types of patients, like, the availability of the doctors, the nurses, the schedules, the hospital's capacity. So all this information, when combined together, now you can build a model like specific to your use case very quickly. That's the benefit of this prepackaged solution that we are talking about. Then you actually use those insights to solve the specific use case, right? So that's a great question. So I think we can definitely chat more about the different type of strategies that can be adopted. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to build on, is that oftentimes what happens is we have the personnel, however, they don't know where the equipment is. And sometimes the equipment isn't actually even functional. So can you imagine utilizing the same technology if we were to execute smart contracts on the equipment, so that we always know the state of the equipment, that we have predictive analytics that allow us to repair the equipment before it's actually broken, and really coordinate and orchestrate that whole picture. So my question is really about can you define the distinction between machine to machine learning or machine learning versus AI? Because is the use of AI potentially more than is it like killing a flea with a cannonball, if you know what I'm saying? Because there's so much already in machine learning and IoT sensors being able to talk to one another. They're nodes, and they can communicate, on Bluetooth 5.0. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great question. So many times we use this term interchangeably, right? Like say, of course, if you ask me in the big scheme of the thing, probably we are not even peeling the layers and trying to actually look at the meaning of a specific type of problems that we are trying to solve, whether it should be a data science problem or machine learning problem or AI problem. But in the grand scheme of things, probably everything we are tagging as AI, I think there is a reason for that. I would like to probably borrow one saying by the poet Milton. I love it. So he said, "My mind to me a kingdom is," right? It's so amazing. So it tells you that a particular type of technology, if it can have an unlimited power within itself, that it's just waiting to be unlocked, whatever name we give it to it, right? Whether machine learning, data science, or AI. So it's the same thing, right? AI in itself is a huge kingdom. Now, we are not talking about, say, specific algorithm or technology today, specifically in this, topic, but the way it has evolved, I will just take a minute. So if you see the early days statisticians, the biostats, right? They actually spent a lot of time in developing the early stage mathematical models, right? And then the early stage stats model that matured into data science specific applications and tools that people actually tried to develop on those models. So many different types of algorithm emerged from those technology. But then when data science became mainstream, we started talking about, specific type of algorithm we picked up from this entire data science world. Then we said, okay, we are solving a supervised machine learning problem, unsupervised machine learning problem, but everything is tied back to your business use case. Those business use case like are driven by data scientists, right? It could be a set of machine learning problem. Then we started talking about that, hey, are we able to derive reasoning, semantic reasoning from these models? Are we able to actually combine my texts, images, my tabular data, everything together? Then we started talking about deep learning, right? So what I'm trying to say here is, if we see the journey of this entire data analytics, so it's all connected together. Now, probably we'll be only talking about AI, maybe in the next century. But actually, this is how, like, the building blocks that has led to the state that we are in currently. Anything you would like to add?
Yeah, no, I think that's very well answered. So I would only add that yeah, through history, AI has been a mask that we have, or a term that we have used for different type of tools. So in the 11th century, when there was the Islamic Caliphate in Spain, there was a development of the calculator, of the abacus, and that was a form of AI, because we had a tool that could actually do computation, that could help people do way faster mathematician operations with using something external. In recent history, we also had then the development of software, which then I know the term that the phrase that coined the last century, which was software is eating the world, in which we had slight automations, in which we already were enabled to use computers to do a lot of things that simple tasks that sometimes we would need someone to be able to do it in person. So that was also the use of AI. Recently, we started calling machine learning AI, and now I think we're using the term AI to mean more about semantic reasoning and the utilization of actually having the algorithm be more of a partner with us than just a tool that we're using. I think that we don't even know what the impact of that might be, because the real power of that is that it enables us to find patterns that are hidden to the naked eye, that are in front of us and we haven't even noticed them. But you're right in the sense that before we actually get into that, we should start looking at applying tools that we already had available, such as machine learning and other algorithms that can already do a lot of work, that can already do a lot of good, and that can really have a big impact. Nevertheless, I wouldn't deny the possibility of applying semantic reasoning in the future to the same solutions that we already had ML added to. It's just that I think we're still at a point where we're not sure what the impact of that will be.
Understood. And just in kind of like closing the loop on this new emergency room, I can see where robots would be able to do the intake, and with semantic learning, they could actually know if this person tends to be a charity person and therefore kind of be a little more conversational with them. If there's another person who's just, give me the facts, ma'am, and they're just very factual, so that these robots could actually become crossing a line, if you will, and create a level of comfort in an area of the world that's always filled with a lot of anxiety, because you don't know what's wrong with you, you don't know when it's going to get fixed, and you don't even know if you're going to make it to the other side.
That was the second part of your question. You asked about machine to machine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that, like as my friend was saying, human in the loop, right? Now, if we are following recently, I'm not naming the cloud vendor, so there was a very interesting error. uh, the bias error introduced inside a cloud machine learning solution, which actually detected a president of a country as both man and woman. So it just happened 3 days back. And it corrected its reasoning because there's a human in the loop was involved. So the point I'm trying to make here is that when we talk about depending entirely on machine for a semantic reasoning, it can be really dangerous. We are not yet there. I think we'll never be there in the stage where like we can entirely depend on the capabilities of a machine, because that is again like developed by a human being, right? So the human in the loop is extremely critical, but we need to build tools and technology that will enable all these human verifiers to automatically provide a feedback. We need to create a feedback loop. I think that's where we need to discuss more and more. And as we go to the augmented analytics and semantic reasoning stage, I think there we will probably experience very cool innovations in that front.
Yeah, I got a pretty simple question. How long do you think Amazon will be on top and running on the internet in its effectiveness?
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
On top and running on the internet and its effectiveness on the internet. How long do you think it'll be as big as it is?
That's a really good question. You mean the internet? How long it will be as big as it is,
Well,
or
yeah, services through
online services? Well, that's a very big topic. I think. Well, I would say first we would need to look at to go to a root of your question. Yes, there was in the 2000s the dot-com bubble, where everyone thought, oh yeah, immediately everything is going to go online. Whatever is out there, the retail is dead. Then we should just forget about it, do everything online. Then we had the boom of applications, the boom of social media, and then recently with the pandemic, we went back a little bit and had this hype of even having virtual reality becoming overhyped and saying, "Oh, let's forget about doing things in person. It's too dangerous. We can just we can get affected with something. Let's just do everything through the virtual world." But as we noticed, and as we know now, we were not ready for that yet. So I don't. I think we're in another phase of development. I don't think there's an end to this. I actually think this is the future onward. Nevertheless, I would say the hype will start slowing down once we start realizing that things take time. It takes time for things to develop and then to be implemented to the end consumer. Because it's one thing when if we're in a room talking about all the solutions and saying, oh yeah, AI has all these capabilities, and then you can reach you're enabled to get those benefits by acquiring products or using services online that already have that implemented. But for it to actually reach the end user and have the foreseeable positive community benefit that we expected to have for the betterment of mankind, I think it will take a while. It will take maybe the entire century. So I don't know when the hype will be over, but it seems that it already came to an end this year as we saw the loss of bullish markets and investment in the tech industry. But nevertheless, all these companies are still out there. They're still building solutions. They'll still have a lot of cash, and they're still building the next thing out there. So even though the bubble sort of burst or there was a loss of interest in it, I think there's no end to it. I think from here onward, this is our future.
Yeah, and no, actually this is a great way to end the session. If we just look at it from a different angle, this Amazon question that he has brought up. That's an amazing question. So if we see, AI has a very interesting role to play here as well. As a company, since it's adopting the AI from all possible ways so well that if you think like, the online shopping driven by the personalized recommendations, the user preferences, they're doing continuous audience segmentations and targeting you. Even they are figuring out what you need before if you know what you need. So all these are driven by AI. That's one aspect. Another aspect is like the way they are integrating the semantic reasoning. See, they have these augmented analytics, self-service capability, touchless screens. They are like, innovating the retail space also. So in another sense, like, if the adoption of the AI becomes like, full scale for a company like Amazon, then once this, bubble is over, like everything stabilized economy, maybe they will even bounce back, and you will see this trend will continue. Maybe they will dominate in retail space. Maybe they will replace some few other big retail companies. Who knows? So that brings us back to like, what all great things can happen when AI is, adopted full scale. So thank you so much. I think we're out of time now. And it was a great session, great pleasure
I think
talking to you all.
Just one last question.
Oh,
Hey,
sorry.
hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
Probably this conference will be like a Web 3.0 next year, right? Because that's what's booming. I mean, internet takes its evolution, and as we march into this, new, form of web where it has more controls. Now it's like metaverse. She asked about the emergency room services. We are spot on in building that, phase by phase. It means that AI and ML may, have a good role to play there, because if we have used the emergency services here in, States, when I went to emergency service, probably I was sitting there for like 2 hours, right? So that's not what we need. As we already have the data, it's like you have smartwatch, it checks the pulse of, the person who is wearing it. We need to build on top of it, right? Whether, it goes drastically down, then it triggers an automatic, 911 call, probably baby steps to see the level of emergency, so that we can really see if it is like a false positive, or like, it's a really serious proposition. So,
Right.
I think you guys are doing a wonderful job towards, bringing that awareness between this AI and ML. Yes, artificial intelligence we cannot supersede human's brain, because we are the one creating it, right?
Yeah.
But we cannot compute we don't have the compute power, like, to run analytics on like zillions of data, where, but at the same time, how do we get rid, or, how do you eliminate the biasing component when it comes to running analytics, getting meaningful information, and turning out to be like a, successful outcome? Because doctors, they operate, it's at least, 99% they succeed, right? It's a repeatable job. So do you think that at a point it can be done by robots? Still, it's been, tested, but what is that you guys think about bringing in that innovation as part of that emergency room service? And because she has that passion to do it, I just want, to hear about it.
Yeah, I think it can totally be done eventually by robots, but we're still at a point where we need the human in the loop. We cannot. I don't know how long it will take. It might take centuries, but we need human supervision, because, as you said, there's bias. Even though that bias would be reduced with even more data. The more data that we have, the less bias that we'll have, because we'll be able to see the actual reality of what's going on. There will still be things that might not be processed in the way that we expect it to, by computers, because they're computers and we're humans. And it's a little bit different universe or scope that we're talking about. But I do think that, as you mentioned, the metaverse, the cool thing about that is that it can allow us to have a parallel world in which we can do things a little bit different than the way we're doing things in this universe, in this dimension, because to be able to implement a lot of these solutions, say to allow for a robot to operate, one thing is a technical thing, and then the other one is the regulations of that, which could take, I don't, it's right now, it's not, it's not going, not seems like it would happen. And then after that, once the regulations have passed, that would mean the acceptance of that by people, in which people would be able to say, okay, yeah, I trust this robot to do that to me. So I think it could happen, maybe. Let's keep an open mind to that. But right now, I would say let's work with what we have and try to use technology to the best that we can with it, with what we have available, what's acceptable by current regulation, and what we can use both in this dimension and in the metaverse and all that. Just
Yeah,
closing words, Kishan?
Sure. This is again another great question. So far, what we have experienced, like robots can actually definitely contribute to, like, some tangible actions. They can cook food, they can maybe grow food, they can actually jump, they can dance, they can fight. That's absolutely fine. But it's really would be dangerous to use robots for decision-making processes for, like, like say whether I should treat this patient at this point of time or not. Meaning they can perform the actions, but like while taking some critical decisions which will have huge impact on mankind, or, like, as you mentioned, that can introduce certain biases in the system that can lead to, like, some huge errors in the system. So we should be extremely careful about those such use cases. It's like how much you are willing to trust your electric vehicle for autonomous driving, right? Have we gone through enough regulations before? Like, I don't think so. I don't think so, right? Like, say, we just handed over this capability in the hand of all the drivers. But the same thing, like, I love this, what you mentioned about regulations, right? So the regulators should very carefully look into these two distinct type of categories. One is these tangible actions being performed by the robots, and those intangible decisions, how much we are actually allowing them, whether it's robot or machine, does not matter. The human in the loop is extremely crucial, and we should enforce it.
Totally. Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was really pleasure talking to you all. Thank you.